Man here. Are you an adult? Okay, how about a growing adult? It's a kid or a kid at heart that is open to learning and change. If that's you, then check out Mabuhay Maxima on Spotify and other podcast platforms. See you there!
Hype Network presents.
Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast. This is the MTG Show Podcast. Okay, it's Saturday, very unusual, and you know what that means. Welcome to your unfiltered Tagalog Wrestling Podcast, and this is the MTG Show Podcast, or as the podcast. O sabi ko very unusual kasi for the first time here in the podcast history since kailan ba? Hindi ko din alam. First time in a while that we're going to drop an episode on a Saturday. And I hope na it's gonna be good. Kasi we're going to give my review on Crown Jewel. Also, we're going to address something about G1 and the predictions for Bound for Glory. Siyempre, pag-uusapan din natin on this week's podcast yung head-to-head ng Raw ay ng SmackDown and Rampage last week. Siguro napapanahon na siya para pag-usapan kasi medyo bumibigat na yung competition. So, if you like that competition, that maybe ito na yung dapat nating i-look forward kasi ito na yung magbibigay ng competition unlike before na sobrang landslide for AEW. Today, their second show versus the WWE's second show. Medyo disaster na yung pinasok dito ng TNT if you're going to ask me. Sobrang disaster na pinasok nila at this point. But wala tayong magagawa. That's Tony Khan's perspective. That's their still number one wrestling promotion. And hindi ko sila masisisi. Sige. Before we start this week's episode, gaya din ng mga pinagsasabi ko kanina, I want to let you know na tayo pala malapit na ang 11/11. Syempre, few weeks, siguro 2 to 3 weeks from today, magkakaroon na naman tayo ng isa pang 11/11 sale sa Lazada. So, if you want to help the podcast, please use my links. Wait lang. Asan na yun? Teka lang. So, if you want to support the podcast, please use my links. So, podlink.co/6gs. Again, that's podlink.co/6gs. Wala kang babayaran kahit ano. Put that on your browser. And then, diretso yan sa app. And, yung pag nakapag-purchase ka na, makakatulong sa akin yung konting earnings na inyong mabibigay with that purchase. So, without extra cost yun na. If you want to support the podcast. Also, bago nga pala tayo magkalimutan. So, si Nike Shoes is now here on the podcast. And if you want to support the podcast as well, please use my links for your Nike shoes. That's podlink.co/MZ2. Again, that's podlink.co/MZ2. If you want to buy some Nike shoes, maybe ito makatulong to sa iyo. May mga shop may ano din dito, Philippines na din sa pagkakalala ko. Southeast Asia kasi, diba, Singapore, Philippines. Kung ano pa yung ibang sites. Sana makatulong itong link for Yao, guys. So, yan. Basically, yun lang. Yun lang ang ating preview for this week. So, let's start with Crown Jewel. So, ito nga pala, gusto kong sabihin muna sa inyo na we're not going to do a full review of Crown Jewel for this one. Bakit nga ba? Kasi masyadong malaki yung show na to for this. Di ko I'm not saying di ko forte i-review ngayon. Instead, ang mas appropriate na word for that, I can say, is masyadong malaki tong show. For 1 hour, hindi ko kakayanin mag-talk just for Crown Jewel. Diba? So, sige, we're going to do a summarize this week's pod. So, that's why, siguro ito lang talaga yung key for this pay-per-view event. Kasi marami din tayo pag-uusapan. We're going to talk about J1 later on. Sige na, let's start with Roman and Brock match. Para sa akin, Roman-Brock match, medyo may point dito sa match na parang mabibigay na ni Paul Heyman yung championship kay Brock. Pero syempre, bait lang yun. And I love that bait. I swear. And I think that bait, isang kahulugan to na hindi pa matatapos tong feud. Maybe siguro magkakaroon pa ng match for Survivor Series. And syempre sa mukha ni Heyman, nagmamind games pa siya. Hindi pa tapos yung feud probably by Survivor Series. And ang medyo kinakainisan ko, mamaya natin pag-uusapan yung Survivor Series. But ang gusto kong iparating, tong Brock versus Roman should be the main event for this year's Survivor Series. Though SmackDown versus Raw, because I hate that idea. That SmackDown versus Raw is only relevant in 2017, 18, 19, 20. Wala na. It's not the best thing for me anymore. Parang ang dating na lang ng Raw versus SmackDown is just throwing everybody in a matches. And nagawa na nila yun. So they throw Roman and Big E one-on-one. I think that's 6-man tag regardless. Ano na, they did it na eh. Wala na yung excitement masyado. Pero balik tayo, Roman versus Brock. I think this match, I can say, ito talaga may beaten pati. May tinatawag tayong beaten factor na nakikita ko lagi sa mga shows minsan. Pero naglo-look forward pa din ako sa mga susunod na magiging galaw itong show. Probably hindi pa talaga tapos to. Ito I wish hindi pa talaga. Sige, medyo layo-layo na tayo ng konti. Pag-umpisa na tayo sa start of the show. Sige, let's start the show with the Hell in a Cell match. Sinabi ko kanina, yung last week, na if tong Edge versus Rollins is the best way to main event this year's Crown Jewel. Ito talaga eh. But hindi. Nilagay nila to sa main event opener. Main event opener. Puta. Sige. Nilagay nila yon sa opening match. And I think hindi nila tayo binigo on this one. Siguro probably this is the best match in Saudi since it's exception. Diba? 2018 nag-start yung mga Saudi events and I think ito yung nag-deliver talaga in general. Siguro, I think this match between Edge and Rollins, pwede ko na din sabihin na ito yung isa sa mga best trilogies in the recent memory. And sana lang tapos na talaga to. Ang problema lang hindi nila pinaghiwalay ng brand si Rollins at si Edge. Ay medyo may possible na history, may history stuff pa na mauungkat pag natapos na tong feud nila sa SmackDown o sa Raw. Kaya medyo I can say na dapat pinaghiwalay nila si Edge at si Rollins. And hindi rin magandang ideya na mas angat talaga ang Raw in terms of overall sa mga big names. Pero I love Roman pa din. Siguro pagka-counterpart niya kay Roman, wala pa din eh. Ganun lang yun. And then ito I can say, this match Rollins versus Edge is a little bit, hindi ko na sabihin bitin kasi satisfied naman ako on the outcome. And gusto ko yung naging sequence. Lalo sa buong laban. Hindi siya mabagal, hindi rin siya sobrang bilis, hindi rin siya flippies, ganun, hindi. This match, na-deliver to. Nag-deliver to, I swear. And the problem, we got this match, is hindi ito yung nag-main event. Mamaya pag-usapan din natin sa Rampage, kasi may isa pang match doon na dapat yung main event o dapat nasa TV. Sige, ilayo na natin. So, kailangan din natin pag-usapan ito. So, Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali. What a great guy, Mustafa on this thing. Kasi, in-announce niya sa Twitter na yung magiging paycheck niya for the pay-per-view, bibigay niya sa charity, which is a good thing for me. And, ewan ko kung notice nyo, I love how they built this this match, despite the fact na sobrang ikli lang ng build time. Halos 3 weeks lang, 2 weeks. And ano parang nakita natin yung magic. Ito talaga yung mga biggest examples of matches na dapat tawag ba dito? Ito yung sa tingin ko na matches na panalo tayo pare-parehas. Kaya lang ang medyo natatawa lang ako doon sa isang part. Patapos na ang segment, may lumabas na si Tariq Hamdi na Olympic silver medalist na sa karate sa Tokyo Olympics. Yung pagsipa niya kay Ali, that's a good stuff. But then, kaya lang medyo logical. But that match overall is pretty damn good. For me, For me. So, and then, idagdag din natin medyo, i-props natin yung maganda yung entrance ni Riddle ha. Sobrang creative. Alam mo yun, sobrang creative. Sumakay siya sa camel. I love that stuff. Kaya lang at this point, wala na, umay na ako sa field na to. Siguro, it's time for me na paghiwalayin si Omos at si AJ at some point. And ito na yung perfect timing for that. And then we got the Queen's Crown Tournament Doudrop versus Selena Vega. Man, fucking loves Selena Vega right now. And Selena's win is, I think, ito yung win nila noong September. And fans cheering on Selena doesn't make sense to me. No? Kasi na-release siya yung pagkaruan, yung pag-shit stuff nila noong September. Tapos, shit niyo si Selena. Like, what the fuck? What's wrong with you? Seriously, I love this match. Doudrop. May kailangan pa akong look forward kay Doudrop. Kaya ayokong alisin yung mata ko sa kanya. Doudrop is a pretty damn good wrestler. And syempre, kailangan din natin syempre na konting look forward din sa mga stuff na gusto natin makita. Ang weird lang nitong Queen's Crown kasi wala, sira na to sa paningin ko. Pero sige, binigyan natin to ng mamaya. I love ito, yung kay Selena ngayon, I can say na she is successor of Alexa Bliss, na she can do whatever. And then, at this point, sobrang talented niya na. Hindi na siya yung Ewan ko. Like, siguro, let's save Doudrop for a later date. But today is Selena's night. It's sobrang clear. Sige. I love palagay natin yung mga pag-hit ng moves ni Selena on this one. That's a good stuff. And napapaisip ako, bakit hindi nyo agad pinush si Selena Vega? And ang tagal niya na sobrang luto na ito eh. First run niya pa lang sa WWE, alam mo nang sobrang tagal na eh. which makes me insulted on this one. Speaking of insult, sorry guys, hindi naman to really insult. But it's Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley in a no holds barred falls count anywhere. Okay. And then ito, sige. We know that Goldberg will win. And I know this, it's a draw actually. Goldberg versus Lashley. This stuff is pretty damn good. I know people is pissed with Goldberg winning this match. Ako, masabi ko lang, I'm fine with Goldberg winning the match as long as hindi ito title match. And hindi siya title match, it's good para sa akin. So that's why Goldberg's win on this match is pretty damn good, and the match itself, it's pretty damn good then. Not as good as the matches earlier, but I think nag-deliver to. Nag-deliver din to, and kaya lang ang problema ko, parang nabitan ako on this one. Although they need to do at least 14 to 15 minutes, ganun. And I think short talaga nila eh. And ang pangit kasi sa pay-per-view na to, ang daming matches eh. Mm. That's the problem of this pay-per-view. 10 matches, inabot na nga ng alas 5 ng umaga itong pay-per-view. And it makes me disappointed dahil sobrang bigat nitong pay-per-view. I'm not saying na hindi naman bago to eh. Tsaka first time natin to since last year. But still, that thing is a big too much. Di ko kayang tumagal lang ganun katagal. I swear. Sige, let's move on with Goldberg. So, konting take notes din. So, Xavier Woods is your king of the ring winner. Sabi ko, Finn Balor winning the king of the ring makes sense to me. However, Woods din eh. Pero, si Finn, kung matatalo naman siya, hindi kawalan sa kanya eh. Parang ganun. And it's accurate. And putting the king of the ring stuff on Xavier Woods makes him mabibuild na din siya kahit papaano. Si Finn kasi nabuild na nila. Si Xavier Woods hindi. So that's why I love how they build this stuff. And at the same time, I love this pay-per-view overall eh. Diba? And hindi rin ako makapaniwala na he won and Selena won. We know that. But hindi ko, sige. Hindi natin mapagkakaila na di tayo sanay sa losing streak ni Balor. Pero it's fine for me as long as Xavier Woods won. And then, it's for the WWE Championship. So it's Big E versus Drew McIntyre. It's pretty obvious that Big E will win the match. But I think this match is sobrang alam mo yun na sobrang action-packed. Wala pa tong 12 minutes, but I think this is one of the best matches of the night. And hindi ko niregret na panoorin to. And I love it. Sige. And then, wait. So, it's a triple threat match for the Women's Championship. Final match na pala to kasi na-review na natin ang Brock versus Reigns. So, Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. I can say here is sobrang slow pin na itong laban na to. Ito guys, sobrang slow pin na itong laban na to, I swear. And I hate the fact na bakit nila pa to. Hindi ko forte na gagawin na naman nila yung title swap. Hindi ko gusto yung ginawa nila sa Profits last year. And hindi ko rin magugustuhan if gagawin nila ulit yung title swap ngayon. And probably if you're going to ask me, parang ang labo na if they're going to do a title swap ulit, parang ang dating na lang sa akin, Is WWE playing with their titles lately? Ganun eh. Kasi hindi man nila dinrap sa isang wrestler from a certain brand. At least you can, it makes sense. Charlotte defended the title against a Raw talent and lose the title and bring it back to Raw. And Becky wins. Becky loses the match here at Saudi, but no, we did it. Sobrang nakakatawa. And I hope na they're not going to do the same profit bullshit thing. Kasi umay talaga ako last year if they did that. So, basically that's it for the Crown Jewel review. And then, siguro ito oras ko na rin para ibigay na din yung ratings ko for this year's Crown Jewel. So, umpisa natin. So, Hell in a Cell match is 4 out of 5. Yung Mansoor vs. Ali is 3. Same with the Raw Tag Titles. Sorry, hindi ko na ni-rate. Yung Queen's Crown Tournament, kasi kagaya nga sinabi ko last week, kung error na yung isa, error na lahat despite the fact na maganda yung winner for me. But still, kung ano yung mali ng isa, parang mali na ng lahat yun. And then, so, No Holds Barred is 3 out of 5. King of the Ring is 3. Same with the WWE title. And the Becky match is 2 out of 5. And then the main event is 4 out of 5. So, yeah. Ito, mga takes ko na lang siguro before we go to the commercial break. I think this Crown Jewel is no doubt the best Saudi pay-per-view ever. Hanggat may Saudi pay-per-views and isumunod na pay-per-view siguro, mapapalitan nila to. Mababawi ko din itong mga pinagsasabi ko dito. But for now, I can say this is the best Saudi pay-per-view. And siguro, if may marirecommend akong match, siguro ang panoorin nyo na lang is the Edge versus Rollins match. Hindi nyo mariregret yun. And the Roman versus Brock match in the main event. So, yan. For now, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, pag-usapan natin yung PWI 150, the women's side, and then the G1, yung comeback ni Katsuyori Shibata. And then, yung panalo ni Okada sa G1 despite the disaster. And AEW's War versus WWE. So, again, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about those things. For now, let's check other podcast here on Pipe Network.
Gusto niyo bang malaman kung paano kami nakikipag-collab sa mga brands in the MT Show podcast? We use Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast. If meron kang podcast, sign up now at podmetrics.co and use my code DMTGShowPod to get full control on how you monetize your show regarding of its size. Again, sign up now at podmetrics.co and use my code DMTGShowPod. If you're an advertiser who wants to collab with us, head on over to advertiser.podmetrics.co and fill up the form. Again, Podmetrics, the easiest way to monetize your podcast.
Mainit na diskusyonan,
Masarap na kwentuhan,
malinamnam na usapan,
at nakakagising na balitaktakan.
parang kape lang. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Rhea Angeline
Join us in our conversations at Coffee na Lang Dear Podcast.
Yeah, yan. So, we're back. Konting plugs din muna bago tayo magpatuloy. So, aside from Nike shoes, aside from Lazada, so if you want to support the podcast by using your best VPN, I swear this is the best VPN. So, if you want to protect your browsing experience and of course, access contents na hindi nyo ma-access anywhere, especially here in the Philippines kasi wala pa tayong D+. And other stuff, you can use our link for NordVPN. May promo dun. And I think that link dadiretso ka sa isang promo na kung saan makakuha ka ng $89 nakukuha ng 2 years na VPN. And then tawag dito, meron pa siyang libre performance for $89. If you convert niyo siya into pesos, that's pretty swarming. 4,000 pesos may get. So if you want to support the podcast, syempre, please use my link, padlink.co/BWN, or check nyo na lang yung description below for more details. Yeah, so that's it for NordVPN. Ano pa ba kailangan natin look forward? Mag-umpisa tayo sa PWI 150, the women's side. So, nilabas na din ng PWI yung kanilang rankings for this year's women's PWI. So, unfortunately, we got a 1 out of 150, 10, top 10 yun nakuha natin. So, we got, ito yung alphabetical order, ha? May magkokomentary din tayo. Hindi ko i-explain lahat kasi not at all, hindi ko masyado napapanood yung iba. Na, siguro, nakikita ko lang, na-popularize ko lang, pero hindi ko nakikita yung mga laban nila. So, let's start with the rankings. Number 10 is Raquel Gonzalez from NXT. And then, Tam Nakano from Stardom. Io Shirai from NXT. Number 8, Shuri number 7. Sasha Banks number 6, Thunder Rosa number 5, Britt Baker number 4, Diona number 3, Utami number 2 from Stardom, and number 1, obviously, Bianca Belair. Bianca being on the top of the list makes sense to me, I swear. On this year's PWI Women's 150, Bianca being on the top, kasi marami na siyang na-accomplish on that time calendar for the basis nitong stuff na to. And I think Bianca Belair winning this stuff makes sense to me. Aside from the Royal Rumble, the first women's main event at WrestleMania Night 1, the first one-on-one main event women's thing at WrestleMania, and then yung run niya sa WWE. Kasi sobrang solid ng run niya right now. Kahit siguro, kahit sino-sino, hindi nila makakalimutan that Bianca has a pretty good run on NXT. And WWE, of course. And then, iba dito, di ko na kasi napapanood. But, natutuwa ako kay Diona Purrazzo despite the fact that Impact is a smaller company now. And I think kinakarry niya na yung company on her back, which is a pretty good thing for me. Impact being Impact makes sense to me. I don't know. And I love it. And Diona being the leader of the women's side makes me love more Impact. Ganun lang yun eh. Britt Baker number 4. Okay, ito na yung last. So, si Britt, I love her run right now as AEW Women's Champion. And I swear, if Thunder Rosa is the one to beat, o kung siya yung makakatalo kay Britt Baker, that should be a match, idikdikan ulit. And it's a pretty damn good thing if they're going to do that. Now, so yun, basically that's it for our PWI 150. And ngayon, pag-uusapan naman natin is konting G1 Climax. Basically, nangyari na yung finals last October 21 bago mag-crown jewel. So, yung finals ng G1 ngayon taon is Okada versus Ibushi. Kaya lang, unfortunately, during the 25th minute mark of this match, medyo nag-fuck up si Ibushi after niya mag-attempt ng, I think that's a Phoenix Splash. And then wala na. I think that's a dislocated shoulder. Di pa natin alam kung ano pa yung time time frame for his recovery. But I hope Ibushi is still can wrestle. Nag-post ako sa podcast page last Thursday din, I think, na pagkatalo si Ibushi, mag-aware ako. Di ako nagbago doon. But this way, I feel so bad for Ibushi right now. If you're going to ask me. Okay ako na matalo si Ibushi. But in that way, are you kidding me? Dude, I feel fucking bad for Ibushi right now. And going back, meanwhile, Kazuchika Okada wins his first G1 after 7 years, which is unexpected and pretty disappointed. No offense, yes. Disappointed dahil sa kanya na rin mismo medyo dismaya talaga siya sa mga nangyari. And syempre, the show must go on. And I think that's a good stuff pa rin despite na medyo nabitin tayo doon sa match. And syempre, kailangan din natin i-acknowledge yung return ni Katsuyori Shibata. Nagbalik na siya sa wrestling scene sa Japan for the first time since 2019. And first time niya actually na mag-compete in a wrestling match. Actually, that's a 5-minute exhibition match versus Shibata versus CSJ. And I think this single segment just stole everything from the whole G1. Okay, I love it. But, sige, hindi ako masyadong fan ni Shibata, but siguro may reason na ako para manood ng mga matches ni Shibata. Kasi may nagsabi sa akin, Shibata matches is pretty damn good. I swear. Yun lang. So, basically, that's our G1 Climax Finals review. So, sige, i-rate din natin yung match. I-rate ko pa ba to? Kasi bitin nga referee stoppage to eh. So, hindi ko na i-rate to. Ganun lang yun. Sige, medyo layo-layo na tayo. So, we got AEW Rampage. 2 hours. 1 hour on YouTube, 1 hour on TNT. Versus SmackDown on Fox Sports 1 FS1. 30 minutes. The final 30 minutes of this 2 hour and 30 minutes show is commercial free. And I think yung paggamit nila sa time limit na yun, sa time na yun is pretty damn good stuff. But at the same time, AEW doing their thing, siguro I can say na dapat talaga binilagay na lang nila si DB tsaka si Suzuki sa main card sa TNT. But parang hindi na nila tinuloy dahil gusto nila mag-stick kay CM Punk. But that Suzuki versus Danielson match is pretty damn good. And that CM Punk. On SmackDown naman, siguro dito ko na din sama yung recap ko ng SmackDown. I love the Becky versus Sasha match. And then yung contract signing na 5 minutes lang. Wala nang dire-diretso. Wala nang kuskus balungos. Just straight up contract signing. Brock shitting on Roman in one line. In one line. One-liner shitting on Roman. And it makes sense to me. I love it. And wala na ako masyado kailangan i-look forward sa SmackDown. And of course, ang weird sa pakiramdam na yung pinagmamalaki ni TK ngayon is nagbabackfire sa kanya. Tingnan mo. Sa recent tweets niya, parang tuloy-tuloy pa din talaga yung pagtira sa kanya. Kaya nga, tinitira na rin siya ni Eric Bishop na at this point para sa akin kasi ito, malaki na talaga ulo ng TK. And si TK out of control na. Siguro, kailangan lang mag-chill ni TK at this point. Hindi natin alam kung ano magiging direksyon ng AEW with his freaking head na sabog. Hindi natin alam kung ano magiging direksyon ng AEW with that stuff. Diba? So, technically, I know that's Fox Sports 1, but still panalo pa din ng SmackDown dito sa ratings war. Kasi, let's say na smaller network channel tong FS1, but wala pinayak. Mas lamang pa din sila sa sa Rampage sa TNT. Siguro, no one watches wrestling on Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Siguro dapat talaga mag-head-to-head na sila sa Raw or sa SmackDown. Or they need to adjust the schedules at this point. And also nga pala, baka di nyo rin alam kung napapakinggan nyo itong podcast ngayon, Rampage will take place on Sunday ulit, Saturday Night Dynamite ulit dahil ewan ko, basta I think that's the same reason as last week. Hockey pa din ata yung dahilan. So that's why we're getting this Saturday Dynamite. And yun, basically that's it for our shitting on AEW segment. Ang weird shitting on AEW. Sige, kailangan na din natin i-look forward and i-check magpipredict tayo for Halloween Havoc na din. Sige, let's predict Halloween Havoc right now. Siguro Halloween Havoc for me is not that best pay-per-view. But siguro at this point, wala na, it's just shitting. And hindi ako umaasa masyado na pangit na outcomes. But if they did, it's gonna be good. So, let's start the predictions, shall we? So, umpisa natin. So, number 1 is Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship in a one-on-one match. Walang stipulation whatsoever. I think hindi ako magugulat. Magugulat talaga ako if Braun Breaker will win this match. But, well, hindi mananalo si Braun Breaker dito. I think, retain to the champ. And then this next match, Indy Hartwell versus Prasha Perota versus Io Shirai and Zoe Stark and Toxic Attraction in a Stairway to Hell match, ladder match. Na-determine na sa spin the wheel. I think hindi pa natin kailangan ng tyro change at this point. Hindi pa natin kailangan ng tyro change. So, I can say it's Io and Zoe Stark for them. Siguro, on this point talaga, Zoe Stark and Io, binibuild pa din nila yung sarili nila as tag teams. As a tag team. And it's working. To be honest, it's working para sa akin. And then we got MSK versus Imperium in a tyro match at Halloween Havoc. I wish Imperium should win this titles. At this point, wala na akong masyadong interest sa MSK. Sorry, guys. And then finally, Mandy Rose versus Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's Championship. At this point, I want to see Mandy winning for her first title in WWE ever. I said ever, 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 ever. If ever, that's her first title. Ever. And I think Mandy should win this match. End of discussion. That's it for my Halloween Havoc predictions. And we're going to take another commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Bound for Glory that will take place on Sunday, Manila time at 10 p.m. Manila time. 10 a.m. Manila time. So for now, let's check our other podcast here on Pipe Network.
I like to have a good time when I listen to my horror podcast.
Her left arm
Oh,
was
that's
chopped
so.
off.
Oh my god,
Caused
really?
a panic all over the
Prolonged
country.
their deaths for like months and
The
months.
frightening, alarming, real-life tales show is my horror podcast. My horror podcast. That's
Give
it?
Pause it.
This is your scary part?
Be scared and laugh hard with the frightening, alarming, real-life tales show. Every Friday on all major podcasting platforms. Don't say I didn't warn you.
So, yeah. Yun, so welcome back to the show, the supersized episode of the MTA Show podcast. And so, sige, let's talk about Bound for Glory kasi ito yung first pay-per-view nila in a while na mag-take place na outside of the Skyway Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a good stuff for me. And the things that we need to look forward on this pay-per-view is basically andito na lang eh. Kita na natin kung yung mga kailangan natin look forward on this whole fucking pay-per-view. Wait, di kasi nag-ano yung ano ko yan. Teka lang. So, for the meantime, pag-usapan muna natin yung pay-per-view. So, Impact Bound for Glory this year will take place in a late time, 10 p.m. 10 p.m. So, bale, magti-take place siya in late time. Siguro. That's a tawag ba dito? Mag-take place siya 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Wow! Ang ano na nun Sobrang, para sa akin, sobrang kakaiba nun. No? Sobrang kakaiba sa akin nung trip nila. Wala akong pake sa trip nila. Pero sobrang, for me, it's a different experience na they're going to hold the pay-per-view at 10 fucking p.m. But the problem here is very simple. Very, 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 very simple. Ang nakikita kong problema on this night is Impact is still sucking AEW's dick. So that's why nadala to sa 10 p.m. slot. And I feel bad for it. Sorry. So this year's Bound for Glory is not that big, not that small. Saktuhan lang. And I think marami tayong kailangan i-look forward. Especially mga returns, mga debuts. Kailangan natin to look forward for this year's Bound for Glory. Sige, let's start this shit with the main event of the evening. So, Christian Cage versus Josh Alexander for the Impact Championship. So, I think umaasa ako na mananalo dito si, Josh Alexander. But, medyo may nararamdaman din ako at the same time that Christian might retain his championship. May reasons din ako na I think Christian should retain his championship to pull some stuff and reasonable things. Bakit kailangan natin manood ng Impact? And Christian is one of them regardless on his background in AEW. But still, Christian is one of the reasons. That's why umaasa ako na Christian should retain his championship. But if Alexander will win the championship, that's a pretty good stuff. And then, ito, sige. Next match is Deonna Purrazzo defends her Impact Women's Championship, Knockouts Championship against Mickie James. This is a intercompany pay-per-view match. I think, regardless sa outcome, Deonna pa dito. Easy. And then, so, ito yung annual call your shot match and if the winner, and yung winner ay makaka-receive ng contract na they can invoke a title match of their choosing. So far, ang na-announce dito is si Rich Swann, Brian Myers, Moose, W. Morrissey, Chris Sabin, and 15 TBAs. wala akong pake. I think isa sa mga TBA yung mananalo dito. And if ibabase natin sa mga predetermined talents na, I think it should be Moose. And then, Trey Miguel versus Steve Macklin versus El Fantasmo for the Impact X Division title. I think it should be, gusto ko manalo si Trey Miguel dito. But, I think they're pushing Steve Macklin really hard at this point. Umaasa din ako that Trey Miguel will win the championship. That's pretty damn good as well para sa akin. And then, DK versus The Inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay for the Impact Knockouts Tag Team titles. Obvious na to. Obvious na to. Sorry. Obvious na to. It's The Inspiration. And then, Heat and TBA versus Violent by Design, Eric Young, Dinner, or Joe Doring in a tag team match. I think si Heat at si TBA yung mananalo dito. And then finally, the Good Brothers versus Finjus versus Bullet Club. Chris Bay and Hikuleo, 3-way tag team match for the Impact Tag titles. At this point, I want to see Bullet Club with titles once again. But, wala. Bullet Club to. Ayan to, I think Good Brothers to. One of the reasons kung bakit hawak to ng Good Brothers is AEW. Yun. And finally, the kick-off match for the Digital Media Championship. John Skyer versus Chris Steve versus Falaba versus Jordan Grace versus Chelsea Greed versus Daniel Dashwood in a 6-way match. I think this is a final match for the Digital Media Championship. I think the title will be defended in Impact Plus shows and pay-per-views. Ganun ata magiging concept ito. And I think it should be kailangan babae yung unang maka-hold ito eh. Regardless na. I think it's either Jordan Grace or Tanil. I think Tanil should win this match for a reason for me. Regardless on what the hell is going on here on Impact. Na why this title exists, I don't know. So basically, yun lang eh. Yun lang ang ating episode ngayong linggo here on the podcast. So basically, I can say that's it for this week's podcast. Before we go, I want to invite you guys to use my links for Shopee. And if you want to support the podcast, please use my link for Shopee. Again, that's podlink.co/BHX. Again, that's podlink.co/BHX. For Shopee naman yan Shopee malapit na ang 11/11. Pwede yan makatulong sa inyo for your shopping purposes. Makakatulong yun and no extra cost naman pag ginamit niyo yung link ko. So, yeah. Pretty much it for this week's pod. Medyo excited ako ila-drop itong episode kasi sobrang aga. First time ko mag-drop ng episode na pretty late than the usual. Kasi ako nagda-drop ako ng episode every Fridays. And hindi na ako sanay sa Friday. And I hope, sabihin ko sa inyo, heads up agad kasi babalik tayo sa regular programming next Friday. Siguro ngayong linggo lang to kasi may crown jewel na nangyari. And kailangan natin i-giveaway yung pay-per-view na to. So that's why nag-drop tayo today, ngayong Saturday. So yun lang. So ito na our picks of the week from last week. So the match of the week, obviously Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki. And then the superstar of the week is Bryan Danielson because I love his match versus Suzuki and Bobby Fish as well. And then the woman of the week is Sasha Banks because I love her match versus Bianca Belair. And that's a very, very, very good stuff para sa akin. And yan, that's pretty much it for this week's episode. So follow the podcast on all of your social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and on TikTok at the MTG Show Pod. And then, of course, you can listen to this podcast via Apple Podcast, Spotify, Deezer, Google Podcast, even on Facebook if you can. And and other podcast platforms and on the podcast app which is available on Google Play Store. And if you want to support the podcast, please all of the podcast links on the description below. And if you want to support the network, Pipe Network, visit pipenetwork.co for more Pipe Network shows. Follow Pipe Network on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at Pipe Network. Also, follow my social media platforms at AG Pinera on Twitter and Instagram. So, basically, that's pretty much it for our supersized Crown Jewel review, plus Bound for Glory, plus G1, plus blah 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 blah. See you next week for our siguro Bound for Glory review, plus yung rants ko. Itutuloy ko yung rants ko sa Twitter about Survivor Series. Siguro ito yung perfect time to talk about that. Pero for now, peace. I'm out. Stay safe, stay raso. Up, mask up, register to vote, get your vaccines up. And actually, sobrang sakit na ng ulo ko kasi normal effect nito ng vaccine. But I'm okay lang ako. Hindi ako nagkasakit kaya wala akong episode ngayon. Dumaan lang talaga ang Crown Jewel. That's why we are moving this stuff ahead of time. Kaya I think ako din ang unang magdadrop sa community ng episode for Crown Jewel. So, I hope na I look forward yun din yung sa iba. So, yan. Yeah. Stay safe, stay raso. See you on the next episode. Peace.